Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Family Sedan channel. Did you know that it's literally impossible for any person or entity to register XRP with the SEC? Did you know that? I'm sure many of you did. I've talked about it before, but I want to go a little bit more in depth in this latest Moon Family Sedan tepid jam because the SEC, they always say, come in and talk to us, come in and talk to us, get registered. How? How to register? You literally cannot register. And so, here is a quote. I'll tell you this. I want to share this even at the outset of the video. This comes from, there's a little debate online all up on Twitters. And I'm not going to go through the back and forth here, but I wanted to share one comment from Attorney John Deaton's crypto law organization responding to somebody on Twitter who wrote, care to point folks to where the forms are for registering a cryptocurrency, where the specific instructions are on who registers them, when, with what information, and what the guidelines are for which tokens are registered for what reason at what time. They don't exist. And so, folks, this is one of the things that's most offensive about this whole thing. It's hard. If I had to put a list of everything that's offensive and then rank it in order of most offensive to least offensive, I don't know if I could sufficiently do that. But I still will say this has got to be among the worst, which is that, come on, get registered. Just come right and get registered. Everything's fine. You can't do that. It's literally not even possible. There are no SEC forms to do that. And so there was this article from Forbes written by Rosalind Layton. She's the author that's been writing for pretty much since the beginning of the case. It seems like an article just about every month or two on the case, covering the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit. She wrote this. This piece is titled, "The FTX Fallout Exposes Risky Rigmarole of Registration." And it does talk about Ripple and XRP and this very problem I'm citing with registration. And this article was from earlier this month. And this is the only article from Rosalind Layton I've never covered. And when it was brand new, I had every intention of covering it. But then stuff popped off and then it got delayed a day and then another day. And then I forgot about it. I never got around to it. And I was like, it's such a good article, though. So I'm finally doing it now. I thought on a day like this, it's a nice little Sunday evening, probably perfect time when there's not crazy quantities of brand new news to get something like this out. Very interesting topic of discussion. But before going further, I do want to be clear. I do not have a legal or financial background of any kind. I am not offering legal or financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. So into this piece we go, again from Forbes, titled, "The FTX Fallout Exposes Risky Rigmarole of Registration." And this is again written by Rosalind Layton. Following the collapse of FTX, the second largest asset exchange in the world, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Gary Gensler repeated senseless talking points about crypto regulation, insisting that SEC rules are very clear on crypto and that FTX, like Terra Luna and Celsius before it, failed because they were not registered. Even as hundreds of billions of dollars in investor holdings vaporized, and the evidence of staggering fraud at FTX was quickly apparent, Gensler still believes that investor protection in crypto begins and ends with a still yet undefined, and maybe impossible, a process of registering cryptocurrencies. Pause. One friendly correction here, Rosalind Layton, is that Gary Gensler doesn't believe that investor protection in crypto begins and ends with this. I don't believe he says that. He just says it. It's a small critique. I don't think Gary Gensler believes that. He just says it. Anyway, Rosalind continues. Few, if any, understand what Gensler is talking about. There is no guide on how a line of code that is used on a decentralized blockchain ledger can be registered as a security, or under what circumstances, or who files the forms, how frequently, or what information needs to be included, or what it is supposed to accomplish. And so here's another thing that really grinds my gears. This would be among the top of the list too. Not only is this nonsense, which is impossible to do currently, about come in and register. Even if there was a registration, you fill out the paperwork with your number 2 pencil. What the hell did you just do to protect the people by filing the paperwork? What exactly is it? None of this is clear. None of it makes sense, and it's not even a thing today in 2022. The piece continues. Moreover, instead of publishing those rules that Gensler repeatedly insists are very clear, his SEC opts to selectively sue companies and individuals. It has been an expensive, grindingly slow, and messy failure, while the FTXs of the world destroy retail investor wealth and faith in the crypto marketplace at an enormous scale and speed. CNBC's Aaron Ross Sorkin challenged Gensler over his intense focus on relatively inconsequential crypto players like Kim Kardashian, while such bigger investor harm was from non-celebrities. But his misguided focus is better illustrated in the SEC's lawsuit against the San Francisco-based enterprise blockchain company Ripple. He inherited this legal boondoggle from his predecessor, Jay Clayton. But in the wake of the crypto winter of 2022, the Ripple case embodies Gensler's failed approach to crypto regulation that has harmed many and protected none. The SEC alleged in its December 2020 lawsuit that Ripple's sales of XRP since 2013 have been unregistered securities transactions, and that the company and its executives acted with reckless disregard for the law by not knowing this all along. Had Ripple somehow registered the XRP token as a security in 2013, a process that has, in fact, never existed, then the holders and users of XRP would have been protected. From what? No one seems to know, since Ripple has not been accused of any wrongdoing towards them. And let's pause to say here, like, even if that were possible, and if Ripple attempted to register XRP as a security today, I would be offended. I would say, what right do you have to try to have that level of control over XRP and the XRP ledger, which is decentralized, and you do not control? The audacity. Now, Ripple would never try and do this, but if they did, I would be offended. That's not theirs. They may own a bunch of XRP, but XRP itself and the XRP ledger is not theirs. They don't own it. It's owned by the people the world over. It's literally decentralized technology. You can't have a central authority register that, because there is no central authority. And if somebody asserts that they are the central authority, you better get the hell out of here, because that is offensive and literally untrue. I would have a major problem with that. Now, again, of course, Ripple would never do that, but I say that to illustrate the point. And then the article wraps up by stating, the pointlessness of the lawsuit became increasingly clear after Ripple decided to fight rather than fold. The SEC based most of its legal theory on the argument that XRP has no utility other than an investment in Ripple, the company, and the token itself is a security even when sold on the secondary markets. Which is obviously completely ridiculous. If you look at all the amicus briefs that were filed, it becomes immediately clear that this is a thriving ecosystem with truly valued technology for all sorts of developers, investors, and entrepreneurs the world over, many of which have their livelihoods staked upon the continued adoption of XRP and the XRP ledger, unrelated to Ripple. Ripple could fail. There's all sorts of people building on top of the XRP ledger where it's of no consequence to them if Ripple goes away. Piece continues. However, evidence was submitted in court that most XRP holders had no knowledge or connection to the company, and the token's market price is not connected to Ripple's actions. How then could XRP even be an investment in Ripple? Surprisingly, and organically, the SEC's overly aggressive posture provoked a reaction in the form of an unprecedented number of amicus curiae briefs against the SEC, including from a putative class of over 75,000 XRP holders and several companies that acquire and use XRP as a settlement tool for payments without the permission or involvement of Ripple. If anything, XRP's utility beyond Ripple has been well established. Even Magistrate Judge Sarah Nepern seemed to understand that early in the proceedings. Ripple's court documented actions with regard to XRP when compared to the revelations about the con artistry of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, should be a wake-up call for Gensler's defenders. Ripple detailed in its defense that it has distributed its XRP holdings in many ways, like programmatic sales to exchanges, And in January 2017, they began publishing quarterly reports detailing their XRP sales with additional market information. At the same time, court documents show repeated efforts by Ripple and other market participants to get clear guidance from the SEC for years about whether XRP was a security, which was only answered by the lawsuit. The company was more transparent than it arguably had to be, with no help from the SEC. The mere filing of the lawsuit in 2020 wiped out $15 billion in value for the XRP holders that the agency is supposedly protecting. Meanwhile, Bankman-Fried was reportedly raiding customer deposits from the FTX exchange to prop up his Ponzi hedge fund, while advancing federal legislation to benefit his company thanks to tens of millions of dollars in political donations. Why, again, is the SEC waging a costly war against Ripple while all that was happening right under its nose? One company went over and above what it rationally perceived as its legal duty, while the other was the model of what must never be done. Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse tweeted that his company will be spending over $100 million on its legal defense. If it wins, the verdict could bring a sweeping precedent that severely limits the nearly 80-year-old legal precedent upon which Gary bases his whole regulatory policy on crypto. But it's not necessary to wait that long for Congress and the Biden administration to take a comparative look at the lessons of the Ripple case against the lessons of the FTX disaster and start mapping out what transparency, investor protection, and clear rules actually mean once and for all. In the end, they will likely conclude that instead of suing Ripple, Gensler should have been thanking them. Oh yes, golf clap for Rosalind. What a fantastic article. And I did intend to get to this sooner because this was published on December 1st here, but whether I covered it then or now, it's just as relevant. But I absolutely love her articles. She is just on it. I mean, I still sometimes wish that the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit was getting more attention, but it's not like we're getting none. There are all sorts of mainstream outlets covering, including Fox Business, and there are other major platforms. But still, my point being is when I do see it covered by, especially an entity like this, I take note. And I just want to voice my appreciation for such. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the Moon Family Sedan.